Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This week we're talking all about repressed memories and inner child healing. Now we teach that profound and lasting emotional transformation and freedom can often be achieved by digging deep and examining those childhood memories and life lessons that were left unresolved. But what if your memories of childhood are somehow blurry, blocked or repressed? What if your mind or inner child just does not want to go there and does not want to do the deeper work? Well, this video will help you. Okay, David, so what are we talking about when we say repressed memories?
So I think in my model, when I hear and work with a client who say that, the word that I think better describes is avoidance. So it's an experience. It may be one experience, but normally a series of experiences. Dysfunctionality could be abuse of some kind, emotional, sexual, physical. It could be bullying at school. It could be anything really. And as a child, when you're a sensitive child, you emotionally experience this, but your cognitive reasoning can't sort it out. So what the child does is to try and shut it down, sweep it under the carpet, is an old-fashioned saying, to get rid of it, blank it out, to think that the best way to deal with it is to ignore it, is to put a big black blanket over it and throw it to one side.
But when we experience something very traumatic or challenging in our childhood, such as the sort of abuse you're talking about, or it could be, I guess, a less serious incident, but nonetheless traumatic for the child, that kind of blocking off the memory, blocking off the situation, blocking it off, hiding it away, that's helpful for the child at that time, though.
Absolutely. This is what I'm always saying is, this is when you have one of those lies. Remember the second lie, I can't cope. And this is why I strongly disagree, because you found a method to cope. And blocking it off as a child, as an 6, 7, 8, 9, you know the kind of age group I talk about, blocking it off may have been absolutely the correct thing to do, but not as an adult. You haven't kind of updated the model. You're still working on that 8-year-old model. And this is why it doesn't work when you mature. Instead of you being emotionally, maturely responsible and creating your emotions, the 8-year-old, that's why I like the analogy of the inner child. The 8-year-old is still trying to block off, avoid, put a wall up, protect themselves, all the things we talk about in all of our video. And this is the problem. For that child, it worked extremely well. And this is what I'm always saying. You are an amazing person. You got through that situation. What you didn't do is update your belief system, your standards, your structure, your principles, whatever you want to call them. You didn't update it, and you're still working on those original 8-year-old belief systems.
So I guess this is quite a common, I suppose you could use the word survival strategy for when we're children. But what you're saying is now as an adult, this is not a good emotional strategy.
I think it's extremely common, but not understood. And there's a big difference. I would say most of my clients, when we get to this stage, they don't really understand it because of the reason you said at the beginning, because they blocked it off for so long. It's almost a no-go area. And I would say when I'm working with a client, this is what they find the most challenging when I'm working with them, because I often say to them, there should be no emotional no-go areas. If you show me a locked door, I'm going to walk through it and have a look what's on the other side. And I will guarantee you in 45 years of doing this work, there are no monsters, none. What I find is a scared little child huddled up in the corner, not able to deal with what's going on and believing that if they make themselves small, if they cut themselves off, that's the best way of getting through. And they're right. When they were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it worked. Well done, you're awesome. But it can't work, the same principle can't work all through your life.
So if someone comes to you and says, I know I can appreciate something went terribly wrong in my childhood, and I dealt with it by kind of hiding it away, avoiding it. That was my survival strategy. I understand what you're saying, David. We need to go there to re-examine it, to then release it, to take the life lesson and release it so I can finally move on. But I've been so successful in avoiding it. It's almost like I can't recall what the incident was. I've repressed it so well, so successfully. I don't believe I can ever imagine what was the original source problem now.
And I would disagree with you. I would strongly disagree with you. I think that strategy was successful when you were a child. I don't think it's ever been successful since that time. Never been successful. So that's the first misunderstanding that I would challenge my client on. The second one is, I can't remember a time when we've never been able to find what I call the fountainhead, the original causes. Now, I get asked this a lot. Is the one cause, is the one particular incident? And it's very rare to say there's one, but there's a kind of a circle there, no more than three. And what happens is you layer other things on top. And so I've never been able to find those original cause. And that's why I believe the golden thread is so powerful, because the direct questioning on the golden thread, I accept for a lot of clients, it can be disconcerting, a little bit upsetting, because I'm going, yes, you do know. Yes, you do know. Come on now. But I can absolutely guarantee that when you got through that emotional block, it's like opening a dam, and they may cry, they may be upset, they may shout and scream, they may be upset with me, but that's okay, because now we can start to address the original cause. And you can look at it not through the filter of an 8-year-old, but through the filter of your maturity. And that's where you heal the inner child. That's where you give the child a hug, hold their hand, speak to them, answer their questions. When I'm working with my client, I let them record all the sessions, because what I always say to them, the only benefit that I can bring you is I understand this maze, and I will answer your questions. You may not like my answers, but I will answer your questions. And that's what when you avoid, that's what that part of the mind dislikes. You're not answering these questions.
So if we try and recall, keep asking those golden thread why questions. Why do you believe this? What made you think this? What was the first time that you were told this, or you believed this about yourself? What you're saying is it doesn't have to be one specific incident. It could be a series of incidences which led the inner child, you as the child, to conclude that I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I can't manage, I can't cope. To conclude with those 3 lies that we talked about. Yes. Do we have to be able to recall the incident in graphic detail, or is it enough to just have an understanding of the general gist of, say, what our mother always used to do to us, or a general gist of how my father used to look at us, or a general gist of how my teacher behaved towards me at school? We don't have to pinpoint things in graphic detail.
No, we don't have to. Some of my clients like to do that, because that's like taking the pressure cooker off, and you see all the pressure releases, that we will get it down to something: father leaving the home, mother leaving the home, getting divorced, what a teacher says. For a young child, what a teacher says can be very important. And getting down to those incidences can really help, but not always, because for a lot of my clients, it's not what someone said, it's what they presume as a child, what they want. You know, we've talked in lots of videos, when you say things like, it's not fair. It's not fair for a child means it's not the way that I want it to be. I believe my parents should have acted in a different way. They should have been more loving, more attentive, more validation, more touchy-feely, whatever it is. And so from that, the child will do this big leap that we call the vow. Well, they must be doing that because I'm not good enough, or because I'm unlovable. or because I can't cope with the situation. And so there's where you go down. When you start to open it up and look at it, you start to understand what's going on. And then it goes back to what I always say. You cannot change what you don't understand. So it's about understanding the events around that. And they may be dysfunctional, as we said in other videos, that you are being abused, but they could be dysfunctional the other way, that you're being overly protected, that they're doing everything for you, that they won't let you live your life and grow up, and they're telling you what to do and when to do it and how to do it. So it's understanding that. But when you do it correctly, you're understanding it from this spiritual, mature position. And that's the difference.
I mean, there's two things, David, that you said that really struck home to me. First of all, what you've just said, which is you're going back and reflecting, often for the first time that we've done this work, with a mature, adult, more spiritual perspective on what happened to us, even if it's just the kind of gist of what we assumed as the child. But rather than continuing to have a fix on what happened to us in terms of the childhood snapshot and interpretation, now we're saying, no, let's go back and look, re-examine this photograph, this memory, this, even if it's slightly vague, there will be a legacy somewhere within the depths of your subconscious or conscious mind to reframe now with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, I think reframing it is a good. You can't change what happened. And the spiritual teaching, the Taoist teaching, is acceptance. And I would say the majority of my clients, when they really roll up their sleeves, and it does mean you've got to roll up your sleeves and get stuck into it. When you roll up your sleeves and get stuck into it, we're normally talking about acceptance. And many people misunderstand the word acceptance. They think that we're accepting what happened to be right. We're not accepting what happened to be right. We are accepting that it happened. And we are accepting that we can't change it. You can spend the rest of your life believing that you're hard done by, poor me, the world should be this way, that way, other people have to make up for it. It's not going to change what happened. It happened. Now the only thing that's left to it is, how do you change, as you say, perception, reframe it, whatever you want to call it, the filter on how you got through that. And as you said at the beginning, the evidence is you can cope. You came up with a wonderful scheme of maybe blocking it off, maybe putting the blinkers on, maybe keeping your head down, maybe not speaking out of turn. Whatever you did, you got through that 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Now you don't have to do that now. Don't use the same method, the same mindset, the same filter, the same, reframe it to a much more authentic and spiritual filter that is more reflective and defines who you are.
David, and you talked about this idea of acceptance and letting go, and we've done several other teachings on these topics, so I will put links to those in the description below. But I guess the essence of what you're saying and what comes across very strongly is we don't need to know or understand or re-examine the graphic detail, the graphic memory, the graphic incident of what happened, but we do need to re-examine our own interpretation of what happened. That's the most important thing.
That is the most important
thing. So it's
thing.
about our interpretation, that memory, that belief, that vow that you said that we're holding on to.
Because that's the only thing that you can change.
Yeah. Yes,
that's
exactly.
That's the only thing you can change.
Exactly.
Is your interpretation. As I said, this is why the teaching of acceptance is so powerful. We can't change what happened. Doesn't matter what the misfortune was. Doesn't matter what the dysfunctionality was. It's gone. Maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. How long ago in your past did these things happen? We can't change them. We can't go back and rewrite it and put you back at the beginning and run the video again. That video is played. It's gone. It's in the library. Now you can change how you look at it. And that is the powerful teaching of Wu Wei wisdom. That's what we're talking about. I want you to be in control. This is about you living naturally. This is about you living to your absolute fullest potential. This is about you flourishing. This is not about CCJing other people and other things. This is about you taking self-responsibility for your life. And this is why this teaching is so important. Once you can get this, and why it's so difficult for a lot of my clients to get this is because of those red light emotions. And that's why I'm always saying on each of these videos, do you accept that you create the emotions? You didn't create the event, but as Alex says, you created your response to the event. Mm-hmm. And once you got that, my God, that's so powerful for you, because now you can tweak that response any way that's beneficial to you.
Mm-hmm. And so the adult us may want to do that, may see the benefit of, you said, of this almost this liberation of this heavy anchor from the past, whether it's something we're trying to repress or something we're very well aware of. The adult us, the spiritual us, the more mature, emotionally aware us knows that this is a good thing to do, to go back, think about our interpretation of past events and go through this golden thread process of dealing with the lies that we tell ourselves. However, the inner child does not want to go there. The inner child will want to block us from doing this work. Yes. And so the inner child will want to keep those memories repressed. Now, I know a lot of people would say, well, I believe that you're asking me to relive, to fully re-experience these traumatic things that happened to me in my childhood as part of this process. And I don't want to do that.
And then I would say to that client, you haven't accepted that you create your emotions then. That's what you've just said. What Alex has just shared and played a role play. If somebody says that to you, that means they're not controlling their emotions. Because you experienced emotion 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you don't have to create the same emotion because you are the creator of your emotions. Now, why the inner child, that part of your mind that we're labeling the inner child, if you prefer, you can label it your ego or you could label it your emotional mind. Why it resists is because it's never been answered. And I do believe talking therapy is perhaps this is where it can be the best because I can offer it an answer. And when someone engages with it and gives it an answer, now it might disagree with me, which is okay. Now we're talking. Now the conversation has opened. Now when it says, I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I cut off my nose to spite my face. I can tell you. I don't know why I want to shut myself away. I can offer a solution. I'm not saying it's the right solution, but if it's not the right solution, guess what? The child part of your mind soon chirps up and starts to say, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. And I say, well, what is it then? And then they tell you. Why it's difficult for you to do it, for a lot of my clients, to do it for yourself, is because for so long you've cut off from the child. You haven't listened to the child. You've disengaged. We've been doing a series of videos on a Sunday evening, and we're getting to an interesting part now where we start to open up a conversation with the child. And that means supplying the child with an answer. So as we say, I'm reparenting the child. First of all, you have to learn, and then you open the negotiation, the discussion, whatever you want to call it, the conversation with your child.
So I guess, David, the beginning of that is if our child believes that if I re-examine these past memories, what happened to me in the past, which was very traumatic and upsetting for me as a child, we need, as the adult, we need to teach our inner child that it creates the emotions and there is another way. And of course, we've done several videos
Absolutely.
on this.
And that really is one of the most powerful teachings that I can share with you. Changed my life instantly, and it can change your life. If you do not, and this is what I would say the majority of my clients will say after we've done 1 or 2 sessions, I intellectually agree with you that we create our emotions. Of course I do. But the inner child doesn't. The inner child still believes that their parents, the situation, the teacher, the sibling, whoever it is creating the emotion inside of them. And that to me is the greatest blessing that I can share with that part of your mind, because that is like releasing the child. When that part of your mind suddenly realizes that we can't change the event, but you can change your reaction to the event. It's like a child with a new toy wanting to go and play outside. It will take that, and you see I watch my clients physically change in front of my eyes, even though we're on video. You see, it's like a light bulb goes off inside their head, and they suddenly realize that now we can talk about this. It's still an upsetting thing, but they don't get upset. They don't like talking about it, but now they can widen their perception of what happened.
But when we start working with the inner child like this and start saying, no, we can respond in a different way to when we think about these repressed memories, these issues from our childhood. It's not like all of a sudden the inner child's going to go, oh yeah, okay, you're right. Your inner child is still going to try and push against you. Absolutely. It will still try and block you. And I know for some people, and I would include myself in this, when we sometimes try to dig deep and do this deeper work, we can have all sorts of avoidance and clever blocking strategies going on with the inner child. So for me, and I know other people in our Facebook group have said that they get, all of a sudden they start to feel very tired, or their mind starts to feel like cotton wool and they can't think straight, or they just, you're asking them the golden thread process why question, and the child's just going, I have no idea. These are all blocking strategies, aren't they?
All blocking strategies. And if you have a physical child, how many times has that physical child come back from school and you think, well, I'm going to engage with him. And what did you do at school today? And they say, nothing. And that's what a child does. And you have to learn the techniques to get around that. And it's about listening to the child and not getting mad with yourself, not punishing yourself. Or we've done videos on self-sabotaging and all of that, because the child is, that part of your mind is just testing you. And that's when I speak to my clients as in a child, if they allow me to. I like to call them a pet name, like, little one or sweetheart or darling or something. So it's different for the child. Somebody's calling me sweetheart or little one. I don't understand that. And I try very quickly when they ask a question to give them an answer. It doesn't even have to be the right answer. In fact, sometimes it's better if it's the wrong answer, because like all children, they want to jump in and say, no, that's not right. This is, oh, right, thank you. So what you're saying is, and we call it the flip in the golden thread. You change it around, and now you're listening to the inner child, and you're saying, I didn't quite understand that. Could you just explain it a little bit more? And within 10 minutes, the child's babbling away, trying to explain to you what's going on. And then you're changing the perception by examining it. It's like, I often think about it when I'm working with clients, it's like a microscope, and you're heightening the magnification. You're seeing more and more and more of the picture as you go down. And that's what the golden thread is, being able to see more of the picture. So then when the child understands it, then it can resolve the issue. Now, the issue will normally be its response. That's what we're talking about.
Its response to the past situation.
To the past situation. It's normally about acceptance, not always, but normally about acceptance.
So if when we are, I guess what I heard you saying there, David, is that we have to be patient, we have to persevere, we have to be compassionately disciplined with the child, because the child will try to resist. It'll try to get its own way because it knows in the past you've just given up. This is too difficult. This is too hard. This is going to be too painful.
So it knows you're going to give up again?
Yeah. So we have to put in place that compassionate, rigorous consistency for ourselves in our inner child reparenting. And we've done several videos on inner child reparenting techniques in order to push through and then start to be able to open up the conversation with the child.
Yes.
Now, some people might say, well, this sounds like a lot of time spent looking at painful stuff from my past. And surely if I'm spending a lot of time looking at painful stuff from my past, that's putting my energy in the wrong place. It's giving me a negative vibration, and that in turn is going to have an impact on my law of attraction.
And I would say to that person, you have not accepted that you create your emotional feelings. You see what they've just done? That's looking at painful, emotionally painful, well, you create the pain. Don't create the pain. And they say, well, this is hard, this is more difficult. So you're saying living your life, pulling along this lead weight of this tucked away stuff is less painful? No, as you wouldn't be looking at these videos and you wouldn't be talking to us. No, this is about understanding that first principle is you are the creator of your emotional feelings. It cannot be painful unless you make it painful. It cannot. You're making it painful. Now, the child didn't have this knowledge, but you do now. You've listened to me. And if you do not believe that you create the emotions, then sit down with a piece of paper and explain how emotions float through the air, travel through your skin and bones, go into your tummy and create those feelings. You create those feelings by your perception, how you view things. Reframing is what Alex said. And that's what we're talking about. Change your perception, your emotions change. And if somebody's saying, oh, well, this is going to be too painful for me, then I would say, why do you have to create pain? We're only talking about something that happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Tell me about it. You don't have to create any pain at all.
Yeah. And I think perhaps this misunderstanding comes from that a lot of, or several therapy models teach that you do have to go in and re-experience the pain. You do have to feel the emotions where you felt them in your body originally. And what we're talking about, of course, acknowledge the feelings, but there is no need, in doing this work, there is no need to re-experience the emotions. All we're asking you to do is re-examining your interpretation of the events.
Exactly.
And that's a huge difference.
That's a massive difference. So we're asking you to go back and put under the microscope your belief system, the way you dealt with it. You dealt with it well as an 8-year-old, but is that the way you've been dealing with difficult emotional situations from that time? And when you change that, it's like opening the floodgates. Then your true energy will go through. And going back to the other point you've made, well, I'm too tired. Well, I've got no energy. But you've got energy to worry. You've got energy to stress. You've got energy to be anxious. You wasting all of that energy on that emotional roller coaster that we call the carousel of despair. This is the waste of your energy. What I'm trying to help you to do is to flourish. Remember, to live in the way of nature. This is Taoist teaching. To live long and happy. To be with the flow. To travel along and to be authentic. And to live to your truth. To live to your absolute integrity. To follow and take self-responsibility for what you believe and why you believe it. And that's very important, because I do not think a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old is capable of formulating a set of beliefs that's going to last you the rest of your life. Beliefs are not set in stone. Can I repeat that? Beliefs are not set in stone. You tweak and change your beliefs all of the time. You don't believe things now that you believed 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. Don't let those childhood beliefs guide your life now. At least have a look at them. You may want to tweak, you may want to leave them. That's fine. But then you're taking responsibility for them.
So what if someone says to you, David, okay, I did the work, I dug deep, I found out about the incidents that I had strong issues with as a child, a lot of trauma, a lot of challenge that I buried away, but I brought it to the surface. I'm glad I did it, and I'm now aware of what happened and my interpretation.
Yes.
However,
So you're giving me a but.
Yeah, okay. However, I know that I still now as an adult get triggered by similar situations, or I know now as an adult that I do occasionally get really strong flashbacks to those events. Does that mean I've not dealt with it?
Yes. That means you've not dealt with it. That means as you've done a lot of work and you've probably dealt with 90% of it, but there's still 10% there that we've got to go and dig out. And we've got to pull it out and look at it, because you're still holding on to some belief, normally through familiarity, because it's just familiar to you to have that belief. And when you keep on refocusing on, this is why I'm always saying, I'm a great advocate of meditation. But remember, when I'm talking about meditation, I'm talking about the ability to focus your mind. So I believe one thing you said we don't talk enough about, consistency. This is something you should be doing 10, 15 minutes a day, every day, Saturday, Sunday, holidays, all the time. Sitting down quietly, lying down in bed, having a good cup of tea, and just going through these, checking your belief systems. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Is this the truth? Why am I not letting go of this? What is the reason? There's a golden thread. I'm choosing to hold on to this injustice. I'm choosing to hold on to this unfairness. Why? Here's a golden thread. Well, it shouldn't have happened that way. Why shouldn't it have happened that way? And then you go down the golden thread. And we're doing a course on this soon, so you'll be able to do this for yourself and following the course down and getting to those core beliefs. And those core beliefs that have to be pulled out by their roots, because if you leave them in, they just spring back up again pretty soon. When you go to a difficult situation in your current life, then those old beliefs will just spring back up.
So what you're saying is having an awareness or an understanding of the issue or what the core belief that's tripping us up is not enough. And what you're also saying is weeding out the belief and changing it 99% is also not enough, because the inner child will still grasp desperately onto that 1%. And that's what still means we get triggered and we re-experience and we have flashbacks.
Well, we pull the trigger because the trigger is still there. We haven't moved the trigger.
The trigger's in the belief.
Exactly. That's a trigger. So the trigger is the belief. Something happens, it touches that belief, and there's a trigger, and then you fire off the emotions. But you got your finger on the trigger, and you have to go down and clear all that out. I think that's fun. I think that's something worth doing. I strongly believe you are worth it. You are worth that. Surely the structure of your life, the belief system is like the sat-nav guiding your life. Surely that's something that you should be responsible for. You should be proud of. Remember, we say in a lot of our videos, would you teach that to your physical child? Now, if you wouldn't teach it to your physical child, why are you still holding on to those redundant beliefs that have never worked for you and never will work for you going forward? And people laugh when I say stop it. And this is the time to stop it and then take a breath, drop your shoulders and look at the beliefs. Why do I still believe this? What is it giving me? It will always give you a benefit. My clients dislike this when I say them. I say, this is a really harmful belief, David. And I'm saying, but it gives you a benefit. And then we have to go and find the benefit, because you would not hold a belief unless you believe there's a benefit to it. And that's very important for you to sit down and think about. If you think it's a destructive belief, what is the benefit that you get from this? And you know what normally is the benefit? It's familiar. It's like a comfort blanket. It's easier. It's not easier. Stop it. This is the time to make a change now. You're doing all of this work. You're getting all of this knowledge. Now it's dig down deep and look at those really what I call the fountainhead, the core beliefs, right down the bottom. and see where they come from and see what you developed from that period.
Thank you, David. Well, we've covered a lot of ground there, and we have lots of teaching resources which will help you more with this topic. And as I say, I will put more information on those in the description below. If you can relate to anything we've talked about today or have any questions, please do comment below. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. If you know anyone else who will benefit from this teaching, please do share it with them. And if you'd like to work one-to-one with David, David works with clients all over the world by video call every week on these sorts of issues. And I will put more information on David's sessions below for you too. And finally, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. We produce new videos every week, and we'd love for you to be a subscriber. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.